Welcome back to Magnetic. Today's guest is on a mission to make wellness more human, more joyful, and a whole lot more intentional, starting with your smile. Cody Levine is the co founder of Twice, the oral wellness brand backed by Lenny Kravitz that's flipping the script on what it means to take care of your teeth. In this episode, we dive into how Cody's built a brand that feels as good as it performs, what it takes to infuse mission into every layer of a business, and how he's creating community and culture through his latest venture with his family, Smile House. Cody Levine, welcome to Magnetic. Let's get into it. But I appreciate you coming by, bro.
Dude, great to be
Yeah,
here.
this is awesome. I know we've had our personal fun, got to meet in just I think it's been Aspen,
Yeah,
which
out
is
in the
still bougie
mountains.
to say, but like I think the last 2 or 3 times we were hanging out, it's been there.
It's
Um,
where a lot of the magic happens.
yeah, and I feel like it's a magnetic place,
It
right?
is.
Like that's where you meet some amazing people. That's where I met you. That's where I've met so many amazing entrepreneurs, and I think what brings people there is that like-mindedness of wanting to be at the top of the pyramid. Right, and I think that's a good metaphor for the stuff you guys have done, not only with Twice, but maybe your family business too,
Mm,
and now what you will be doing with Smile House.
yeah.
But I always love to start the conversations on more of a personal narrative from you, because most of the things that are out there in the ether are really just sound bites of success. And, you know, Cody's doing Smile House, Cody's doing Twice. It's like, what is really the EQ driving force
Mm,
behind all the things that you're doing? How do we connect the dots looking backwards a little bit so that we can make it more of a clear picture of why you do the things you do and why you're really good at them today? So I'd love to
love
start
that.
there and really get into your bit of your heritage and maybe even I think it sounds like some family heritage too on that
Yeah,
front.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I kind of grew up around dentistry. I didn't grow up wanting to be a dentist, but I have dental DNA. The earliest
Yeah.
memories, my dad lecturing around the world. And back then, they used to have slides. There were these little like X-ray cards that you would put in a machine, and they around, and it would be projected up on the screen.
Mm.
And he would just have case after case after case of full mouth rehabilitation, uh, aesthetic transformation, new smile designs, and that was my earliest days of understanding or seeing what my family has done.
So was your father's parents involved?
Father, actually, my dad's a first generation
It started with your
dental
dad.
specialist.
Okay.
Yeah. And I kind of say as I grew up, I was in college. I went to Cornell. My father went to Cornell. My brother went to Cornell. We all played lacrosse. So I followed footsteps in that sense. When I was getting recruited, my dad said, "Where do you want to go? You could go anywhere." He never pushed us towards dentistry or towards Cornell, except Cornell was like the easy, like the most obvious choice. There's a photo of us sitting bench side at a game and like your feet don't even touch the floor.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
hanging off. You're a little kid, hat's too big, and
yeah.
life is good. And got to experience that team dynamic and what it took to build a world class culture. We were a hardworking team. My dad won a national championship in '76. He'll never let us live that down that he's the only Levine who's won a national championship. But we had four amazing years, and you learn so much as a human, getting pushed and challenged. And there's a lot of life lessons that I've gleaned from that. But my journey really started when I was in college. I joined my family, my mom and dad, on a dental mission.
Mm.
They had started a foundation when I was a kid that brings full service dentists and medical professionals to communities that don't have access to care.
It's incredible.
Yeah, and I had seen through that.
Domestically?
The first trip was actually in Rwanda, in Africa, and we were helping a foundation, specifically a woman who was part of Foundation Rwanda. I don't know if you remember what happened in Rwanda in the early '90s.
Hmm.
Over just under a million people were murdered in like 90 days. It was a genocide, and women were raped, children were born from the rape, and these kids grew up and they needed support. And there was one
Wow.
woman who lost her four front teeth during the genocide, and she didn't smile anymore. She used to sing in the choir, and she
Mm.
lived like this. She covered her mouth, and we went on this mission to give her her smile back. My parents had met her the year prior. He had dentures made. We flew out to Rwanda, and we're working in this small clinic in Rwanda. There's about 6 or 7 dental offices at the time for 14 million people.
Yeah.
Gives you perspective of access to care. You know, I live in New York. We're here in New York. There's 7 offices on a 10-block radius. Anyways, we're working on her, and my dad's checking the bite on these an upper partial that he had made, and they fit like a glove after about an hour. And she looks in the mirror for the first time in 18 years. Her name's Agath, and she smiles.
That's
And
incredible.
man, this rush just took over everyone. We're crying. She starts singing. She starts braiding my mom's hair as this kind of deep sign of love and affection. And that for me was the spark that helped me not just see but feel the power of a smile and what my father dedicated his life to, um, and that set us out on the journey. And mom and dad have been launching product companies in oral care since I was a kid. Actually, my brother and I were packing product in the ping pong table in the basement since I was 7.
Oh,
My
yeah.
brother was
It's the
10, and
hustle.
we were the fulfillment center
Yeah.
with my grandma and grandpa. And so yeah, we always loved that entrepreneurial grit. We saw the ups, the downs, the wins, the losses, and it really built a foundation for us. Where my brother and I then continued that on in building twice. So the foundation was our spark.
So let's transition into Twice.
Yeah,
So you kinda had this legacy, this moment of like, wow, this is more than just product and dentistry. This is creating a smile on a human. And then how does Twice kinda embody that experience?
yeah.
And what did you how was the Twice chapter so impactful, and what are you doing with that into transitioning into what you do today? And just tell me more about
Yeah,
Twice. Yeah.
twice was that next chapter for my brother and I to take everything we've experienced and continue the legacy and build something bigger than ourselves. We were so moved. The Rwanda trip followed with a trip down to the Bahamas. We do a mission every year with Lenny
A big
Kravitz.
impact side, and
Yeah,
which I know, but
big
it's
impact.
important to
And
understand.
when you're in service to others, it unlocks so much for you,
Mm,
and the ability to give is really key. And I think a lot of people are in the hustle and bustle of their own world, and that's life. But when you really can take a minute, take a step back and say, hey, how can I give, how can I be of service? And if you can open yourself up to that, the world really starts working for you.
yeah, supporting you.
So yeah, the Twice journey was inspired from the foundation mission. We teamed up with Lenny Kravitz, who's been a longtime patient of our dad's. We do the missions with him. We just had our eighth mission down there, and we're planning the next one. And what we're building is sustainable health, and the opportunity for us to do that on a daily basis with, not just the folks who have access to care, but America, our country, we have rampant health issues, and the mouth is really the gateway to the body. The mouth feeds the gut, the oral microbiome feeds the gut microbiome. And we said, hey, the products we're using every single day, twice a day, which is what inspired our name,
It's cool.
we're brushing twice a day. Unfortunately, 100 million Americans don't brush twice a day. We wanted to help change behavior and inspire people to really take control of their oral health.
Mm,
And the brand you see in the market, we're the only packaging, the only brand on the shelf that's all yellow.
yeah,
Yellow, if you're sitting around the boardroom at Colgate or Unilever or J&J,
yeah. Lack of
red is like,
inspiration.
or yellow is like yellow teeth, right? It's like taboo. And for us, we wanted to flip the script and bring the brightness. The brand
Mhm.
stands for brightness, it stands for love, for connection. And that yellow, I think, is able to really pop energetically and physically on shelf. So the brand represents a bigger movement around brightness and love and connection, and knowing that the products you're putting in your mouth that you're using twice a day are rooted in quality, in efficacy, in cleanliness. So yeah, we've built a portfolio of products that we're
And you're
really
still
proud of.
focused on Twice? Is
Yeah,
that still part of the larger vision?
absolutely.
Okay.
I'm the face of the brand. You
Yeah.
can find me on TikTok
Yeah, yeah.
at Twice Oral
I have,
Wellness.
yeah.
And yeah, we brought on a great partner about 4 or 5 months ago who are helping us take our vision from here to a whole other level that we're really proud of and excited about.
Yeah.
My brother and I are still heavily involved day to day.
Before we get into your next project, talk to me about oral care generally. I feel like
Yeah,
with more information comes more scrutiny, which more scrutiny comes more misinformation. How do you help your consumers or potential consumers really delineate between, what they should be doing, what they shouldn't be doing? I mean, I have a 5-year-old. We're trying to be as clean as possible.
yeah,
I've grown up with fluoride, haven't really thought twice about it until
yeah,
recently. But now you just have access to way more information. And some people who have more money have a bigger platform.
yeah.
And so where's your stance on that, given fluoride, non-fluoride, more traditional dental practices versus get 2, 3 opinions. Oh, maybe you don't need anything done at all and let it kind of just chill.
Yeah.
Where do you sit on that spectrum?
My POV is that oral health can be the tip of the spear for longevity. And what do I mean by that? We go to the dentist more often than we go to a primary care physician, right? We see our dentist
That's
two,
true.
3 times a
Yeah.
year. And the conventional approach is, oh, you have a cavity, you need to floss more, and you should brush with fluoride. Like that's the hasn't changed in 50
Traditional. Yeah.
years. Our brand, we're hoping to create a bridge from conventional thinking into the modern future world of dentistry and oral health, thinking about the mouth as really a key gateway to longevity.
Mm.
And there is a lot of information out there. You scroll TikTok for 10 minutes in a wormhole and you think everything is bad and you
It's
have no
overwhelming.
idea what is
Yeah.
good or bad. Um, we try to educate, and education is it's time consuming, it's a long game, and we try to stick to our guns where we can provide information that is rooted in science and also challenges conventional thinking. I was commenting on one of our videos where a very prominent dentist, older gen, was saying that what I'm saying about alcohol-based mouthwash is incorrect, and that like, oh, alcohol in your Listerine isn't bad. And I'm sitting there like, who's paying you to say that? Actually, I know who's paying you to say that. And
Yeah.
it's
One of
you have to choose the real truth that's better for our society long term, right? You should never have alcohol in your mouthwash. There's zero role for it. It was designed 50, 60, 70 years ago as an antiseptic because that's all we had to pour on
the.
wounds, right? It's drying out your oral microbiome. It's contributing to more decay, more cavities. There's plenty of science and plenty of data to back
Mm.
up that alcohol is like public enemy number one in a mouthwash. Ingredients in your toothpaste, right? You don't need an ingredient called sodium lauryl sulfate. Sulfates, if you've bought shampoos or
Yep.
soaps, you're looking for sulfate free. It's a cheap ingredient. The big guys put it in there because it's more cost effective
At
than
scale.
the
Yeah.
alternative. And, these are easy, simple swaps. But our stance is always, how do you help people understand that your mouth and going to the dentist is not just about fixing a cavity or fixing a problem, right? How do you make it about
Mm.
upstream prevention and
Proactive.
longevity, proactive, right? From super reactive, my tooth hurts, I'm in pain, I have an abscess. You're past the point of no return. And we can help you there, but let's get upstream and let's have people understand that drinking lemon water every single morning might be great for digestion, but is super acidic, right? And when your mouth is highly acidic, that's when your teeth start to demineralize, right? So you need to
Mm.
alkalinize the mouth, raise pH. Oral pH is a whole conversation. The water boom of all these pH alkaline waters. Look at Essentia. I mean, they sold for what, like a billion
Mm-hmm.
more? They're an alkaline pH water. They crush it on branding and marketing. But at the end of the day, like if your mouth has a high pH, you're going to remineralize all the essential minerals and nutrients from your saliva and from your products you can use, like a great toothpaste or a great mouthwash, can actually remineralize and bind against your enamel and strengthen. So some people say that you can't remineralize
Mm.
your teeth if you have a cavity. There's no turning back. There's not. It's not all black and white.
So what's a baseline fundamental practice look like for you, given that you know your customer set is gonna be following some other trend on some other part of their body, like
Yeah,
lemon water in the morning or,
right.
black coffee or whatever it
Yeah,
is.
right.
How do you Can you give a blanket statement on that? Like, is there just more of fundamental, like, if you do these things,
Yeah,
just like how it's like 8 hours of sleep, that's gonna help you no matter what,
right,
even
right.
if your diet may look different one day or another day.
Yeah,
What does that look like in your space?
it's a few simple hacks that, I talked to my dad about, and him and I have a fun conversation back and forth about it. First one is alkalinize the mouth as soon as you wake up. And what that means is we make a mouthwash that's alcohol free, and it's got an alkaline pH. So as you're swishing, you're raising
This
pH.
is before you drink anything.
Yeah, yeah, you can have water
Yeah.
when you wake up. Like I'll take my supplements. Actually, I brush first.
Mm.
I do my rinse and then my brush. So, uh, not to plug, but the Twice Immunity Rinse, we spent 3.5 years formulating this product. It's sold out more times than I can count, unfortunately. But we do have inventory, and it's a dual chamber rinse. And when it activates in your mouth, it's raising pH and neutralizing bad bacteria. So I
Mm.
rinse first. There's a lot of commentary on the internet of like, what's the right order? Rinse first to raise pH and create an optimal environment for
To br
remineralization, right? And then you brush. Our toothpaste has nanohydroxyapatite. It's a fluoride replacement. That needs an alkaline environment in the mouth to start remineralization. So I rinse first and then I
I'm
brush.
completely fucking this up
Yeah,
at
well,
home.
it's a simple tweak. Like, try it for a month
Yeah.
and see what happens. If you have active sensitivity or if you're prone to cavities, like, use it for do that for a few months. Go get a cleaning. Our customers are raving the reviews over the last 7
That's
years.
incredible.
Their mouth has never been healthier. So yeah, that's a little hack. I think mouth taping, if you are a mouth breather, or if you think you might, if you ask your significant other or anyone you might
Yeah.
be sleeping with, hey, do I snore? If there's any little like hesitation, try mouth taping,
Mm.
because it forces the air through your nose, which is a natural filter. Your mouth is not. So uh, if you sleep with your mouth open, that breathing in and out is actually contributing to a dysbiosis in the microbiome, which is an imbalance of
Mm.
bacteria. So mouth tape is a hack that I do every day. Rinse before you brush.
Is that at night too?
Yeah, yeah,
Same
yeah.
same
And the
same thing.
rinse, I keep one pretty much on me at all times. Post coffee,
Yeah.
refresh. So yeah, those are some actionable steps you can take. And everyone says like, oh, you gotta floss, which is true. If you don't floss, like that's when your oral health will decline, and next thing you know, your overall health will decline, and you're gonna say, I wonder how that happened. And if I was in the room, I'd say, well, when was the last time you flossed? Or, understanding your oral microbiome. You can go get your saliva tested,
Mm.
which is one thing we do, is salivary testing to look at all the bacteria makeup in your mouth. So like you would do function with Mark Hyman on your blood work, this is oral microbiome testing.
That's really
And then you
cool.
can identify any deficiencies or over-indexing and
How much does
bad
reading,
bacteria.
maybe a random question, but I think in Indian traditions, like, more Ayurvedic, like, it's
Mhm.
tongue scraping and all that. Is
Yeah.
that a big deal in your
Huge.
world?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, tongue scraper is part of our, like, optimal routine.
Mm.
So yeah, that's a great play every night,
Mhm.
before you go to bed. Last step, I would say, is tongue scrape
Yeah.
before you mouth tape.
Yeah, so much to remember.
Otherwise, that would be tough.
In this process, have you had to help your dad change his traditional thinking at all, or has he been pretty ahead of the curve in terms of being open to new information?
He's pretty innovative. Like, he's the kind of doc who he stepped into a room, a speaking engagement, and he was talking about change
Mm.
and how change is coming in dentistry because it is. And he's definitely open to that. And he's been making products. He's got 28 patents on oral care innovation. So he loves change.
Yeah.
He formulated a red light device that, everyone's wearing the red light masks for skin and collagen synthesis. Well, intraoral for gum health and
Anti-inflammatory,
inflammation,
yeah.
it's a really killer product. So we had a whole discussion on the rinse before you brush, and he understands where I'm coming from, and the optimal environment for Riemann is a really compelling, argument
Yeah.
in his mind, so he's on board there.
What got you guys together to think about this new venture that I wanna get into, Smile House?
Yeah,
Where did that start?
started, started with my brother, who's the really, I would say, super business-minded, former PE guy. I'm more creative side, and he was diving into the service business and said, "Hey, what about opening up a second practice?" And Doc's
'Cause
been
right now you have one family
family,
practice.
yeah,
Yeah.
35 years on 73rd and 5th Avenue, right
Mhm.
off the park. And Doc's been, he's got a multi-specialty office. He's got specialists from around the world. He's got about 24 staff, and they're all incredible. Mostly expats, global workforce of really, really talented, hardworking,
Passionate, I'm sure.
super
Yeah.
passionate dental specialists. And the idea of opening a new space was understanding his approach. Like he's been transcending a conventional dental office through his process, through his diagnostic approach. And a big part of where dentistry goes wrong is in diagnosing, right? Identifying the problem. It's like you need when you build a house, right? Like where do you start? You start with a blueprint. You start with a like floor plan.
Mm.
If you don't build that and understand all the components of the space, you can't build a house properly. And in dentistry, it's the same thing as it comes to diagnostics. A dentist might look at something and say, "That's the
Mm.
problem. Here's my treatment plan. I'm going to pull that tooth, and then this tooth will just move into
They're looking at the
place."
root. I mean, they're looking at the branch versus maybe the root. Yeah.
Exactly. So, how do you get to root cause? How do you understand the full picture? So, I got to understand that that's how Doc has driven his work for decades. And we started thinking about a modern approach to diagnostics and comprehensive
Mm.
care, which is done uptown for 35 years. And he's treated, all the famous New Yorkers you can rattle off,
Yeah.
like the SNL skit for like the SNL 50 about the veneer sketch, like Doc's the SNL cast member's dentist, which is really
Really?
funny.
Yeah.
Lauren's been a longtime patient for, yeah, since I was a kid. And translating what he does into a more modern, health conscious consumer approach. You see what Prenuvo is doing for a full body scan. It's the
Yeah.
world of experience and members clubs, and understanding a deeper knowledge of your whole body health. And we know that dentistry really can be, should be, will be the tip of the spear.
Mm.
So a lot of conversation as a fam, and finding a way to manage all that and build a new space. So we've been helping our dad open a downtown office, which is really exciting. We'll be open in a
Yeah.
matter of weeks.
Were you
Um,
the creative director there?
I leaned in on brand and built what I believe is a beautiful brand.
Yeah.
It's all about illumination, illuminating the mouth and the mind on the path to optimal health.
Yeah.
So when you walk in, you feel almost like nervous system down regulating,
Instead of being
comfortable,
anxious going to the
warm.
dentist and
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, you think of the dentist, and what do you think of? The
Yeah.
drill,
Pain.
pain, needles, anxiety, fear. Ah,
Yeah. Yeah. It's not like an inspirational place where you feel like you're gonna be proactive about your health.
right,
It feels like more of an Advil, right? Like a reactive, like, "Shit, this is
right.
happening, I need to go in and get it done."
People hate going to the dentist,
Yeah.
broadly speaking.
How do you guys think about how you place this in the mindset of a consumer journey as they're thinking about proactive health? I mean, I was talking about this earlier today, but I have a functional doc that leads me in a couple ways. I have, maybe like a dietitian who leads me in a couple ways.
Yeah,
And then you kind of, with anything new that you're inserting yourself proactively into a consumer journey, it needs to fit their larger roadmap.
correct.
Because if it doesn't, that's where I think you'll find, I don't know about your business specifically, but generally you'll find drop off because it doesn't fit their like mental plan
Yeah,
around how they operate because there's going to be a stronger voice somewhere else saying drink the lemon juice and forget what your dentist says
right, right.
because that's more beneficial. So how do you Does it matter? Or maybe it doesn't matter
Yeah,
in terms of fitting into the broad.
the patient journey, you're you're part of a collective that are super proactive, right?
Yep.
Access to a functional medicine doc who can guide you in a non-conventional way. So our goal is to um, play on the same field and integrate. It's called medical dental integration,
Mm,
and this is the opportunity to bring together forces that were separated at the beginning of time. There's a whole history narrative of the first dental school. Tried to start within the medical school,
it's
but the
interesting,
medical
yeah.
school said they
Break it
closed the
off
door on them. They said, go down the street and open your own. And so two silos were
just
built.
because they didn't think it was as
They didn't
integrative or important to
exactly.
the whole
So
body health.
what we're building is an integrative and functional practice, and having a functional medicine doc driving your lifetime of health, it's mission critical that actually they get connected with an integrative dental specialist. And the diagnostics that can be done at Smile House is part of your overall plan. So we're actually working with some really interesting functional medicine groups
Mm,
around that patient journey and ensuring that they're getting the same level of care from a dental experience. You need the full picture, and if you're
right.
missing
That's what I
that
was
dental
asking.
picture,
Yeah.
you're not you don't have a full visibility.
Yeah.
So our mouth map, our roadmap needs to
Mouth
connect
map. I
in.
like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the signature service is a mouth mapping assessment, and it's
Mm.
90 minutes, and you get a
That's your
comprehensive look.
initial,
Yeah,
yeah, diagnostic.
yeah, yeah. And I'm curious, your POV, your listeners' POV, there's folks who just want a cleaning, right? And that's the conventional way of thinking. This is something that I talk with my dad and the team about. It's not just a cleaning, right? My personal POV, which I'm flexible, but if you want a cleaning, you can go right across the street and get a
Yeah.
cleaning. But what we offer is comprehensive analysis, super integrative care with multi-specialty experts looking at you. And without that, you're almost flying blind. So
Yeah.
we will offer someone who wants a cleaning, but then their next visit actually needs comprehensive diagnostics so we
Yeah.
can provide you with an optimal treatment plan.
I think it's brilliant to have the education piece at the forefront. I mean, I can only speak to it personally, but wouldn't you want to know why they need to clean and what they're cleaning? And you can't, I mean, you can't look inside your mouth really on a day to day basis. You can look at your skin, you can look at other pieces of yourself, but
Right.
it's almost, you're sort of blind to any processes that they're putting in.
Yeah.
Um, so I think having a map is that's really unique.
Yeah. We have a
Yeah.
really unique approach that my dad created, and I kind of saw it and I said, this is the blueprint to dental longevity. And that's kind of what this
Mm,
is. It covers four domains of diagnostics: aesthetics, structure, function, and biology. So it looks at aesthetic work, how it looks, structure, how it's built, right? Your jaw, your
yeah.
airway, function, how it operates, how you chew, how you speak, how you move your mouth, and biology, everything happening inside the mouth in the oral microbiome. And with those four domains creates a complete picture. And then your cleaning is where we can identify a lot of these things. And let's say you need orthodontics. Okay, well, let's understand the root cause. Let's look at these four domains and let's build the most optimal treatment plan for you. Minimally
Mm,
invasive, but built to last, right? Built to improve. Like the reason why I'm doing lower aligners is not just to have perfectly straight teeth. Um, Aesthetics is part of it, but I actually, down in one of my lower teeth, my bone is pushing up against my gums. And in 15 years from now, if I don't take action, I could need a gum graft.
mm,
And I don't want that. Right. So this is, and I might not be like everyone thinking about that, but
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
super preventative.
Yeah.
And, I've seen what happens when you wait, and it's not pretty.
Yeah.
And we could do all that when you're past the point of no return. But what a mouth map assessment does is help you really see a full picture.
Yeah. It's so fun. I'm just thinking about my own journey with dentistry. I have a wisdom tooth that's still in that they can't take out because it's too close to the nerve.
Mm.
or that's the
Yeah.
there were
Yeah.
that was their opinion, and that's why I'm getting a ton of crowding because it's pushing.
Right.
But then it's like, hey, I don't have a full picture and to understand like what is the impact of keeping it the way it is
Totally.
versus taking the risk and taking out.
So to double click,
Yeah.
just a thought, but not every office will use a certain type of imaging, right? So it's kind of like, do you have the right technology at your disposal, analyzing three-dimensionally what's going on structurally? Like that's a
Mm,
structural issue that's actually causing a functional issue. It's all connected. So making sure that the office has a 3D CBCT machine, which
yeah.
is super cutting edge. It's the 3D imaging, sees everything from nose to throat. Most offices are still operating two-dimensionally. So a treatment plan could be designed. They might not be seeing the full picture. They might just need to shift the vantage point and be able to see something new.
Yeah.
That's the concept of illumination in action.
So
So
cool.
yeah, I mean it's exciting because it's real impact. Like I get to see cases. There's a patient in my dad's office. Uh, when you see the smile, the lateral tooth was missing. It just went front to canine.
Mm,
And we're like, oh well, where is it? It's actually behind his canine. It grew in behind, and one dentist wanted to pull the tooth and just fill in the gap, but the patient has obstructive sleep apnea, doesn't sleep well, is really unhealthy, and what they needed was a palatal expansion,
to give it more
create
space.
space. Quite a complex case. 12 months later, moving teeth, bone graft, gum graft, you name it. Aligned smile, airways improved, sleeping better than ever, healthier than he's ever been.
Wow.
And when I see that from a specialist, I'm not a specialist. I didn't go to dental school. But I see that and I'm like, wow, this profession changes lives.
Mm.
And the ability to do that for someone is mind blowing.
Yeah, and to see how that's all connected. Most people would never connect the
They
way they
wouldn't,
sleep
they wouldn't. And they
to
would have gone down a really painful road if they would have gone the conventional, let
yeah.
me just pull that tooth. So,
What's the vision with expansion? Once so you guys are gonna launch Smile House,
hmm,
Twice will be incorporated, I'm assuming, as
product
a
set will
brand.
be there, part of the home care routine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then what's the vision with the business? Keep a spot open in New York until people are begging for it to be in other locations, or is there a rollout plan?
I think it's do one really well.
Yep.
It's a family run business, it's not venture backed. Uh, So we want to grow slow and nail it, but we believe the concept can and should be everywhere.
Yeah.
It's an exciting time in dentistry. You got roll-ups of offices. Mom and pops still have a majority of offices nationwide. So these DSOs, dental service organizations, they roll up, they buy up offices, and then they're all underneath the umbrella.
Yeah.
We love New York. It's home base. So we'll see. I think the vision is let's nail one and see where we'd go from there.
To get a little bit more nuanced, because I love the concept of physical locations. I mean, I spend so much of my time in scaling big brands.
Yeah.
It's all about scale. It's all about, being everywhere all the time. As you think about Smile House and some of the fundamental things that you had to understand prior to opening it, how did you guys end up positioning it even in downtown versus closer to where your dad already has a ton of clients?
Yeah.
And maybe that would have been a cannibalization to a degree, but how did you think about the process of choosing where to build it? And then what does success look like
Mhm.
in the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't come from this brick and mortar background of taking a chance in such a dynamic city like New York, where competition is so high. You said it, there's like 7 dentistries that you can look at just, outside of this window.
Yeah.
Um, how do you think about all that?
Yeah. It's a great question. I think the Uptown office, Upper East Side, 35 years, it's so tried and true that we went to the opposite side of Manhattan.
Hmm.
And my dad's patients, most have been with him for decades. His team has been with him for decades. And his patients have kids, and those kids have kids, and they've moved downtown.
Mm,
So it almost
that's
feels like a
interesting.
natural extension and flow where to service the downtown community, it's younger, it's young families. it's folks who maybe the Western medicine conventional has failed them, right? Where they are saying yes to preventative, functional doctors. I don't want to step foot in a conventional setting anymore, and that's really exciting for us with a new audience, a new community that feels even aligned on like the next chapter of life for all of
Mhm.
us. Doc is, I can't believe I'll say his age on air, but Doc's 70.
Yeah, but your dad does not
The
look.
guy looks like
I think
he's
you showed me a picture
I
last
rode
time we
bikes with
met.
him yesterday.
Yeah.
Like, he's a
What do you
machine.
do in Aspen? He was, like, hiking, or
I mean, we were hiking the bowl,
yeah,
and he's a machine. And you look at him, he's like, okay, it makes sense. This guy's the longevity dentist. Um, he's a beast,
yeah,
and his mindset, his attitude, his approach to life, his work ethic, and his approach to health is super inspiring. So I think the downtown expansion is really unique and aligned with what we're doing, um, and it just feels right.
yeah,
We love downtown, so we're excited to open. We're speaking to a new gen.
yeah. Walk me through some more of the EQ side of brand building or just building projects with your family.
Hmm.
What are some of the challenges there?
Yeah, I mean, the best part about building with family is you can get in a heated argument, and once you kind of calm down, you just go attack the problem.
Mhm.
We try not to go to bed upset, and we know that we're all committed the next day to figuring it out.
Versus what, like, if you're in a corporate
Corporate
environment without a family,
environment.
you might fire the person you're saying, or
Yeah, like, I guess pros and
yeah.
cons is you don't fire each other.
Yeah, you can't.
Unless, like, they're just
Some
not
succession shit.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe.
But everyone has unique abilities, and I think when you honor each person's unique abilities and put them in the best position to be successful, you bring out the best in everyone.
Yeah,
And our family we know each other so well.
that's what I was gonna ask.
I've been in business as co-founders with my brother Julian for the last 8 years. We haven't worked a corporate job in, yeah, just about a decade.
Do you guys have, like, blowout fights and then you just calm down and figure it out, or
I mean, sure, there's definitely things that there's components that might set someone off. And it's about understanding um, who does what and accountability, but staying in our lane and knowing how to be supportive versus how to be, maybe over, like you're taking control of something when,
stepping on someone's
yeah.
toes or
So there's nuances to that.
yeah.
But family business it's a wild, crazy ride. Seeing my parents do it since my parents are happily married for over 40 years and they've been in
It's
business
it's
together.
incredible.
It
Really
creates
lucky
nuts.
situation to
Yeah,
be
and
in.
crazy experiences. Like the best part of the journey is the challenge, really. We love that. I love when Gary Vee says like fall in love with the process. Like when you enjoy the journey through all the hard times, like that's what makes showing up at the
It's
destination
almost
even
more
worth it.
important than the
Yeah.
destination. Yeah.
So I think when you're super aligned to that and aligned to the vision, um, it's great. It's sometimes tough. I don't know if you know much about like or study into visionary integrator. Like there has to be a
Mm.
visionary and there has to be an integrator.
Talk to me
And
about that, I don't know that.
visionary mindset sets that long-term vision, and an integrator helps lead implementation. And when you get too many visionaries and no one integrating,
It's
execution
a
fails.
dream without,
Right.
yeah,
Exactly.
substance.
So, playing each other, having everyone play a role, and you could be visionary integrator in different ways. Like I integrate certain things and I might be a visionary on certain things, but understanding who's doing what is critical.
Yeah,
My brother and I are day to day on content and innovation on our product company. Meanwhile, a construction site's getting built. So, understanding where you show up, who do you need support from?
yeah,
Our fam's definitely invested in personal growth. We love studying the books and talking through all components of mindfulness and getting to know each other's skill sets. So
Mm.
that deep dive is also really special, right?
Yeah, I think you're mentioning 2 things that overlooked very often. You think, "Oh, like, oh, that's a great" I'm making this up, like, you're starting a product, "Oh, that would be a great CTO, let me just bring him on," and, y that deep dive, as things becomes more digital and the blocking and tackling becomes covered more easily, I think we're kinda forced to spend more time connecting, even as teams,
Yeah,
and most of the battle is just getting on the same page with people, and so not taking the I mean, you're doing this with family, so you've known them for a very long time, but, I can parlay this into a question, like, do you think it's critical to do some of this deep dive work prior to hiring people
yeah,
into your team? And then a second question. So the first question really is that necessary? And then second question, visionary integrator, can you exist as just one person doing both, or is it fundamental to have both?
yeah, yeah. It's a good question.
And we have a lot of friends that are just starting companies, right? So
Yeah, you have to have
what's the
both.
advice to them?
I'll start there. I think you have to have both, and even
Two
if
different people.
yeah, yeah, and even if you both want to be the visionary, you both share the vision. Don't get me wrong, but there has to be someone owning and playing an integrator role. They can enroll other people
Hmm.
to support them, but you have to say, I'm the integrator here. And because ultimately, project management, someone has to be responsible
Yeah.
and accountable. So I would say that needs to happen. If you're a solo founder, I think if you're looking for your first hire or you want a co-founder, understand where you are lacking or deficient in and play to your weaknesses in hiring.
Yeah.
Um, and to answer your first part, at Cornell in the lacrosse locker room before every game, you would we used to say KYP, know your personnel, and we had a whole session where we went through the other team, their name,
Hmm.
what position they are, if they're a righty or a lefty, or maybe both, what they do. We study them on tape, and you have to know, well, one, what you're up against, but ultimately who you're working with, and you know your team really well. So when you know your personnel internally, I think you could look at something like a Colby score or an Enneagram test that like
Yeah. We were
it
just
should be
talking
part of
about
your
that.
hiring. There's one called Colby, which I did with my brother. It's a company out of Toronto called Strategic Coach. This guy, Dan Sullivan, wrote a handful of amazing books on leadership and growth and development. And the Colby score is kind of like how you're wired. I learned through this a great way to work with my brother because there's four domains and pillars of this test. And I found out that I was a quick start. That's where I lean. And quick start means I think about an idea, I want to jump right in.
That's
Into the
very
deep
much
end.
me. Yeah.
I don't need to walk in through the shallow end. I need to feel the water. I'm like,
Let's do it.
woo!
Yeah. Let's do it.
And my brother is a fact finder. And a fact finder, they need
Makes a
to
case.
understand all the information. Okay, well, how's the temperature? What's the depth? At what angle should I jump? Those types of facts make informed decisions. And I need to play into my brother's operating mode. So instead of me coming to the table with guns blazing, I got a great idea. We got to do this. Let's do it. Jump in, jump in, jump in. He's like, whoa, 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 whoa. So there used to be conflict because
Hmm.
I don't know if you study Kabbalah at all, but like the idea of filling a cup that like you're going to overfill. Like the
Yeah,
cup
David
only,
David Game walked
yeah,
me through that.
David.
Yeah,
So like
yeah,
he talks about that, if a vessel or a cup it doesn't have the capacity to receive, I'm like pushing this and he's like, whoa, 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 that could cause conflict. So caution to any entrepreneur, team members, co-founders, even family. Shit, it helps you
yeah.
understand how
So what
people
else is in
work.
that so you said it's because it's really interesting to me. Like,
Yeah. So quick
so fact
start,
fact
fact
finder.
finder.
These are the different areas you would basically result into.
Yeah, you would,
Okay.
and you're a blend of both, but you
Yeah.
might lean one way.
How similar is that to like human design?
Similar,
You
very similar.
familiar?
Yeah,
Yeah.
similar
Yeah.
to yeah. I'm a generator.
Yeah. I think I'm maybe Jen,
Um,
which
so,
confuses me more because then I'm like, what side do I play on? Yeah.
um, Colby's really interesting. It's kind of like they position it as since you're a baby, it's how you're wired. Um,
How easy sorry for the because I feel like I might
Yeah.
actually take this into my
Y
team after this
yeah,
meeting, but
it's really
how
fascinating.
easy is this to implement? Is it a long test? What's the format?
No, 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 you can go on Strategic Coach, shout out
Okay.
Dan Sullivan,
Yeah.
and, you can sign up for the test, probably takes 15, 20
Oh,
minutes,
okay.
and you could send it to all your team members, all your family members, and then, yeah, it's, uh, fact finder, quick start. One's like an engineer, um, and then the other is like, I forget the name, but it's someone who organizes
Mm,
things, like, organizes thoughts in a certain way. It's actually I'll share what I took away from my experience there. It's like if you had a baby at a table and you threw out a bunch of ice cubes. This is how a baby's wired from the beginning.
okay.
A quick start will, pick it up, throw it in their mouth, and just, like, go for it. The fact finder will pick it up, like, look at it, like, realize it's cold, like, maybe start crying and drop it, and, like, pick it up, look at it, feel it's cold, and
Yeah,
drop it.
yeah.
And then the third one, the organizer starts to, like, bucket them in certain, like, areas of the table, and then the fourth one starts building blocks on top of each other.
So interesting.
Fascinating, right? And they lead you through a whole
And
teamworking.
that's you think that's, nature versus nurture?
Yes,
Like,
they
that's what they're
say that
saying?
it's
It's kinda
nature versus
DNA
nurture.
hardwired.
Yeah. And I believe it. You know,
Yeah.
I've seen how I operate and the people I've taken the test, my brother,
Yeah.
my dad, and yeah, when you can play into each other's understanding, we were talking about that before the pod, like it just builds so much understanding for each other.
Mm. I mean, this is wider than business, right? It's like
Yeah,
relationship you should be doing this in relationships too.
absolutely. Yeah, Enneagram is also another interesting one, human design.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we
So
were
all
talking
these
about that.
so take the time to invest in some of these things prior to getting that next hire.
Yeah. Yeah, and also in relationships, the ability to like understand each other deeper and learn more about each other. These things are really compelling deep dives, right?
Yeah.
It's self work at the end of the day, and if you have a partner, you get to do it with them.
Yeah.
Then you can understand faster if like this
I
is
mean, and also not even understand faster if it's a fit or not, but also how to conflict resolution, right? Like
totally.
shortening the time between, the emotional charge and the settling and getting grounded again.
Yeah, yeah,
That's where whether it's at work or at home, I mean, that's the challenge usually.
yeah,
Because you're butting heads against someone who thinks very differently, and then to get back to a grounded place, if you don't know that person, it's really difficult to get there, and then you have resentment and all this other stuff that crawls up with it.
right. How do you stay non-reactive
Yeah.
and understand them and hear them and yeah, I feel that. You know, I think with building anything, it's never easy. It
Mm.
comes with challenges, stress, struggle. But when you can do that with the lens of I'm learning about myself and I'm pushing a realm of comfort and expanding that, that for me is like the biggest blessing you can have for yourself.
Mm.
I find that professionally, I find that personally with movement and, working out and training,
Yeah.
those things help expand you in new ways. I think you just level up as a human being.
Yeah. It's so and you only take it for granted when you don't I mean, it's so funny, I was just telling you before the pod, I twisted my ankle, the other week, and I haven't really been able to move for a
Yeah,
week, and I haven't had that for many years, where you're kinda
that's tough.
sedentary, and I just realized how much energy just builds and kinda like, you need to move it.
Have
You
to.
can't expand without, moving
Oh,
it.
you got to move through, man. Like,
Yeah.
I find that that's my number one tool to work out of any hole.
Movement.
Just move the body.
Yeah.
I have all my ideas and clarity come on the bike or in my running shoes.
Wow.
And breath work is a
That's a great
powerful
metaphor.
tool,
Yeah.
but you gotta move. You gotta move. Being sedentary is like it's one of the biggest fears I have. So I feel you. Like
Yeah.
I feel you. Any way
I
you
was
can,
calling my wife last
you
night.
don't
I
have
was
to go
getting
get in the
some weird
pool.
thought. I'm like, she's like, you need to move.
Yeah.
She's like, you haven't been moving for a long time, and
Yeah.
it's
This morning I woke up I dove right into work and I wanted to get on my bike. It was raining and I had to handle a early morning thing. And I texted my girlfriend, I was like, "I just need to move." I was eating a bagel, by the way, which I like. I would never, as a New Yorker, I maybe, someone will shame me for this, but, like, bagels are bagels.
Yeah.
They're, like, kinda like, lazy carbs,
Yeah.
but something about it, I went on a run with Ashwin, and we got Apollo
Nice.
bagels, and it,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
relit this, like, "Damn, this bagel's fucking good."
By the way, he was supposed to the founder is supposed to come on the pod too. It's great.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we know him well. It's great, great business.
Yeah,
It's
killer.
another magnetic company for sure.
Great bagels.
Yeah.
But
So
I
you're
was like,
proven
"Damn,
wrong.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
turn into a bagel. I need to move, like, need to
Yeah.
move."
Where do you I mean, I've known you for a short period of time, but I feel like you're a pretty inspired person and source some great energy from different individuals. Where do you draw most of your inspiration from? You've claimed to be, more
Yeah,
of the creative.
yeah.
Where are you drawing that inspiration from?
Um, I get inspired by a few verticals. One, I get inspired by my dad as a leader. So I guess I look inward on that one. I love design. I get inspired by designers and architects and spaces. And then mindset wise, I mean, I follow everyone from, Hyman and Huberman, to Eckhart Tolle
Yeah,
and
very
Robin
similar. Our
Robin
feeds are probably
Sharma.
very similar. Yeah.
Yeah, so like I love personal growth. I think that if you commit to yourself, like it's a never-ending journey. You got to do that work. I try to seek positive content. I think you can fall into a negative trap
Yeah.
on social media, but I tend to get inspired by some of these voices, and some are like young and people who are just putting positivity out in the world.
Mhm.
Um, there's a dude on Instagram. We DM a little bit. I've never met him. Zach Prague, I think his last name is on Instagram. Anyways, I like come across his stuff and I read it, and it's like it's just that relentlessness mindset. If you read Tim Grover's book, who was MJ's trainer, Relentlessness,
Mhm.
like he embodies that, and I live that. I don't share it every day, but I believe that the journey is, we say it's not the challenges you face, it's how you face the challenges. And you got to get up and like go right at it.
Mhm.
So I love that. And then I find a lot of inspiration in continued learning. David Guillaume's a great example, right? I discovered Kabbalah when I was living in LA, and I'm Jewish. I would say culturally, I'm not a super religious
Yeah,
person.
probably similar to my
Yeah, and I
take.
found a language that made a lot of sense. It was like everything I thought and understood, but now it's like translated for me in a way
Mhm.
that like hits. So I find a lot of inspiration there, and honestly, the people around me. I'm
Yeah.
inspired by my
Back to
friends.
our Aspen point of, like, being
Yeah,
in
the
inspired
people you surround
locations and
yourself with
communities.
and that you meet. Most of my friends are entrepreneurs, and like we've been through the same problems. We're all either like in the dumps, like struggling deep, and it's like, man, if someone hugged me right now, I might cry. Or it's like, wow, like this is
I love
elation
that.
of joy.
S
And when you have that,
There's no in between, but
no,
there's
there's
no
like
in between.
zero,
Yeah.
zero in
The
between.
well, the in between, I think you actually highlight is the process,
Yeah. Yeah.
is loving the process,
The journey, man,
which
ups and downs. So yeah, I'm inspired by my friends who, even some who are like pre-launch, I like see that like sparkle in their eye.
yeah.
Part of me is like, oh, you have no idea what's
Yeah.
coming. But like I can't wait for you.
Surrounding yourself with good people is so important.
Yeah.
What are some of the qualities you look for in people? Like, not design or businesses or some of the things we talked about, but actually in other humans, um, to develop a sense for whether or not you wanna get closer with them.
A lot of my like new connections revolve around movement, actually.
It's a shared
A shared
passion for
passion. Yeah,
yeah.
I think people who share that desire are like there's something that they get to break through, and I think people who are continuous growth learners want to challenge themselves. I love that quality in people, and it could be done in any way.
Mm.
Like, I like climbing mountains on skis. It's, like, a bit niche.
What do they call it again?
Skinning,
Skinning. Yeah,
uphilling,
there you go.
but, I mean, even you get a semblance of sunshine on the West Side Highway, and it's like exploded. But, movement, and then I think surrounded by, a desire to learn, growth oriented. I think family is important. Whether you come from a family that you want to emulate or not, right?
Mm.
And you're able to learn through that experience for the future that you want to build.
Yeah,
I think integrity and honesty and trust, these are things that are built with people over
yeah.
time. I've learned the hard way, in business and even, yeah, in friendship,
Relationships. Yeah.
relationships, what works for you and what doesn't. And I'll be honest, I grew up with an understanding that people were good, and I think people are good.
By the
But
way,
it's a
that's so powerful. A
yeah,
lot of people don't.
man, you mean my mother? She's like a radiant beam of sunshine.
Mm.
And even through the hard shit, I'm like, "Man, mom, like, how do you do this? Like,
It's like my
you're
wife.
it's a
It's
beautiful quality." So I look for that
yeah,
too, and even in a partner. Some people might think it's weird, but, like, my mother's, like, the gold standard. Like, I want someone like my mom. I'm a mama's boy, I guess.
yeah,
But,
yeah.
um but,
That's incredible.
going back to, uh, understanding and believing that people are good. But as you go through the journey of life, like, you are inherently gonna meet people and
I
experiences.
challenge that.
Yes,
Yeah,
100%. And you talk to anyone who's wise, who has experience, that is part of the game,
yeah,
and it's all about how you navigate it. So I've dealt with some of the hardest business challenges in my life,
yeah.
and I think it was thrown at me because I didn't have those problems at home, right?
Mhm.
I grew up really lucky, and I have a ton of friends who didn't have that side
Yeah,
of the coin. So I
same.
think my challenges were thrown at me in a business sense, and man, we navigate and you find a way and you come out stronger and better than
I
ever.
think it's also not changing or backtracking on those authentic characteristics that you've laid out when you are challenged. So a simple one would be like you put your heart out there and it gets broken, and
Mhm.
then you want to close up,
Right.
right?
Yeah, then
Even
the
though that's
guard's
what
up.
you, and then you close up, and then you kind of that second or third person might have been it for you, whether a business partner, relationship, whatever. But now you've been impacted, and you let that dictate how you move into the future.
Yeah.
I think that's a big mistake. And what you're saying is just keep that like you will, of course you're going to find people that challenge it, and that's
Yeah.
part of the journey and the process.
Yeah.
Like I'm very much like open fist of service, not trying to hoard information and believing there's, hopefully enough for everyone to go
Yeah.
around.
And you're a super connector.
Yeah, and but people sometimes will take advantage of that,
Right. Right.
right?
For
And I
sure.
think it's on me to realize, okay, that's 1 out of 99 times or 1 out of 1,000.
Yeah.
But those are the ones that hurt the most
Right.
because you don't expect that to happen.
Mhm.
But yeah,
And you
it's
gotta go right through those, right? And it's like, what a pleasure, like David says. It's like,
yeah,
this is in your story and movie for a reason, and when you can fully understand that, you're at peace with it,
mm,
and it helps mold you. So, yeah, it's a powerful skill, right, that you have,
yeah,
and it's what makes you unique, and I think if something challenges you in that and pulls you away from your magic,
mm,
right? The only way to probably get back is, like, keep giving,
producing more
right?
magic. Yeah,
Exactly, and
yeah,
not let that drag you down. It molds you and shapes you and probably gives you an eye to around the
future.
corner.
Yeah,
Um, but the best revenge is, like, staying as true to you as you
shining
possibly can
brighter.
be.
Yeah,
Yeah,
illumination.
that's it, man.
Dude, smiling harder.
That's it. Just
No, this is amazing. Do you have, as we close out, are there any things you want to share about whether it's personally or professionally, beliefs, visions, expert insights, anything you feel called to?
Yeah, I mean, I love this conversation. It's
Yeah.
been super inspiring to be able to just, like, pour it out. And for any entrepreneurs in it, like, you are not alone. You know, I've everyone falls victim to comparing yourself to
Mm.
others, and you know, time is false perspective. Like where you are in your life, where I am in mine, where they are in theirs, like you got to honor that. You got to appreciate it. Because I think we're going to look back in, 10, 20 years, and you can't have any regret. I saw something the other day that was like, if you fast forward and you were on your deathbed, like you can't have any regret. And
Mm.
so I don't want to live with any regret, and know that every single moment in your life is there to help you level up. Um, and I just feel lucky to be able to do that. And
Yeah.
I would say just stay open and stay committed. And there's always storms, but the wind will be at your back, before you
Yeah.
know it.
Dude, I'm grateful for this conversation, man. And for
Yeah.
you and for you being here
Thanks, man. I
and our
appreciate it.
friendship.
Thanks for
Yeah.
having me.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Fuck yeah.
Love it.
Thank you.
Yeah.